Is it too early to start buying the 2025 UF hype? Let's talk about it today in this video presented to you by BetUS. Okay, so I saw something this week that I thought was pretty interesting. Andy Staples, who we have had on this show multiple times, great guy, and Ari Wasserman of On3 released a way too early top 10 list for next season. And listen, guys, I surely hope they're right. So they have one, Texas. I think that's, no surprise there. Two, Oregon. They will earn a ton of pieces. They can fill that quarterback spot correctly. I can see why that would be the case. Three, Ohio State. Four, Penn State. Five, Notre Dame. Six, Georgia. Seven, South Carolina. Eight, Clemson. Nine, Florida. And 10, Auburn. Okay, so before I give you my thoughts on that, let's see what the guys said about it. So this is what Andy said. This isn't purely a DJ Lagway confidence pick, but it mostly is. The Gators simply looked different when Lagway took over as QB1. The offensive line, led by center Jake Slaughter, improved dramatically over the 2024 season, and most of that group is back. Florida still needs to develop receiving targets, whether that's rising junior Eugene Wilson III or five-star freshman Dallas Wilson or somebody else. On defense, the return of defensive tackle Caleb Banks might have been bigger than any portal pickup or freshman signing. To truly be a college football playoff contender, the Gators probably will need to find more production off the edge. Losing linebacker Shamar James to the NFL doesn't hurt as much because freshman Miles Graham also has a bright future. Okay, so that's what Andy said. Is it too early to start buying the hype? UF is coming off an 8-win season. Could've, should've, would've. I think we can all look at last season's schedule and see where we could have picked up more wins, right? You can leave the terrible start against Miami and Texas A&M, and I think you still can see scenarios. DJ Lagway doesn't get hurt. They beat Georgia. Play calling's a little better against Tennessee. They beat them. You're talking about a potential 10-win season that honestly was closer than I think people maybe realize. So do things go differently if those little changes happen? I don't know. UF did have their chance to get those 9 or 10 wins in 2024. And listen, they didn't do it. I am not one of those people that says like, oh, well, if you'd changed this and this and we would have won. So really we're a 10-win team. No, but they had opportunities to do it. Did they take advantage of that? No, but truly this team was a couple plays away from being a 10-win team. They're going to have their opportunity to get that number of wins in 2025. It's a similar schedule to last season with just the SEC opponents flipped. So everybody that we traveled to will now come to Gainesville this upcoming season. I'll get right back to the video, but first, I appreciate BetUS for all their support. Just quickly, make sure you're betting with them and using their code YouTube150. That'll get you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit. You'll also get 125% on your next 2 deposits. All of that up to $2,000. We're still in the playoffs with a couple games coming up this week. So if you're betting on that, please make sure you're betting with BetUS this postseason. Dave Waters of Gators Breakdown said this: for the first time in a bit, Florida has some momentum. While Bama and UGA finally take some steps back, FSU is coming off of their worst season ever, Miami failing to live up to expectations. Include Texas and all of those teams that are replacing quarterbacks while you have your chosen one. It's easier said than done, but take advantage. This is the window to win and the window to catapult the program. For the first time in what feels like a really long time, Florida has some momentum. Bama and Georgia, we talked about Florida State, we talked about Texas. This is the moment. The SEC wasn't as strong as it usually is this season. I think we can be fair in saying that. It's still the best conference top to bottom, but not nearly as top heavy as it had been. UF absolutely has a chance to go out there and prove their worth. Bama, new quarterback, and a coach that, listen, fans are already getting frustrated with simply because he's not Nick Saban. Georgia, still incredibly talented, but they're going to have a new quarterback. And look, they looked more beatable than they have in at least a half a decade. Texas, The Arch versus Lagway battle in the swamp is certainly going to be a fun one. And honestly, Lagway has gotten some experience this year. Arch has gotten a little bit. Lagway's gotten more. Past that, who are you even worried about? We should have beaten Tennessee. We did beat the two next best teams on our schedule in Ole Miss and LSU. Now the ball is in UF's court. Napier has to get the coordinator hires correct. We've talked on this channel before about the fact that, we're not 100% sure what they're going to do with defensive coordinator. Do they stick with Ron Roberts? I very strongly feel in my gut that that's what the change was in this defense midway through the season, that's who started calling plays, not basing that on any inside information, just based on the fact that the defense looked so different from effort to play calling. I think that means it was now Roberts' defense. Coupled with the fact that we've heard weeks before it happened that Austin Armstrong would not be back in Gainesville the following year, makes me think that, that was part of the plan. So do they hang on to Ron Roberts and he's the new defensive coordinator? Or do they go elsewhere? And who do they bring in? And then what happens to Roberts? And then also, what do they do about this offensive coordinator? Do they go ahead and hire one? They have to get these hires right. Speaking of the wide open SEC, I recently launched an SEC channel. It's a spin off of this one. It's called A Peek Inside the SEC. I would love to have you join us over there. Here's a link to watch our latest episode. Click the screen and do me a favor by subscribing. I want to thank BetUS for their support. And as always, go Gators.